Hi, Spencer here from B&P Conversions. I thought I'd just make a quick video just detailing the custom-made engine beds that my company makes and sells. So these engine beds basically are a direct fit without any modification to the original E30 chassis. Please ignore just the spaced out bolts. These are just used as washers to space out the bolt being too long. Okay, what I will do is I'm going to order brand new bolts, all four, for the subframe from BMW. Now, the main reason of the video is to explain the setup of this engine bed. This engine bed is designed and modified and made from scratch to be able to work with alongside the original M3, e36 and e36, s54 and s50 oil pans. Now the s50 and s54 has a rear loading oil pan at the back of the engine, and that is fully baffled from factory. If you fit a 3.2 s50 or s54, both sumps have a oil pickup tube in the rear of the sump which is baffled, and they also have a front scavenge oil pipe. The good thing about this is that under braking the oil moves forward, the front scavenge pipe collects the oil. Under acceleration, the oil moves backwards, drops into the oil pan itself, which is baffled. The baffle stops the oil from moving left to right of the engine, and the oil is then sucked up under acceleration. So in track environments, the s54 and s50 oil pans are a perfect design for the engine setup. For many people, they found that to ease of fit, they've used an e34 5 series oil pan on some s50s, s54s. They are a direct fitment, but they don't offer any type of baffling in the oil pan itself, and they tend to end up with oil starvation because under hard acceleration, the oil leaves the front loader part of the pan. The oil pickup, the only one in the engine, is at the front. The oil then gets aerated and whisked by the crankshaft under hard acceleration. When the oil finally drops back into the sump itself, the pump will pick it up, and it then pumps aerated oil around the engine. So you have a split second where your engine has no oil, and then when the engine finally gets oil, you end up with aerated oil in the crankshaft. So you end up with bearings getting metal to metal contact. As soon as a bearing gets metal to metal contact, it will literally start to pick up, and just pick up and tear away. And before you know it, you'll end up with a big end knock. You could actually go as far as the big end knock happens really fast, the bearing overheats, and then you find that the bearing welds itself to the crankshaft. It then spins inside the conrod itself. It then overheats the conrod itself and welds itself to the conrod. So then the conrod then gets pulled down, finally welds itself, rips off the piston and smashes a hole through your block. So that's goodbye complete engine. By the time it's smashed a hole through the block, it's damaged the cylinder heads, it's usually bent the valves, and your engine, your £4,500 engine, is good now. Now, if you want to fit an M50 525 sump on the front there, good luck to you, is all I can say. You're more than welcome to, but what I would suggest is, through development, through talking to people, through seeing it myself, this engine bed offers the perfect setup. So I'll give you a little bit of demonstration, a brief demonstration about the engine bed. The engine bed, the centre bar of the engine bed has been moved 50mm further forward. This then moves the steering rack 50mm further forward. And so many people ask me, is that not affecting the Ackerman angle? Which it would be if we weren't running different suspension legs. Now, if we were keeping the standard E30 4-stud suspension leg, bolting them onto the standard wishbones, the steering rack angle would actually be this. It would be further back. So under turning, what would actually happen then is one wheel under turning would move further than the other wheel. So this wheel would turn that much, the other wheel would turn that much. You would end up with tyre scrub on the corners of the tyre, on the edges of the tyre, and the steering just wouldn't feel right. But we aren't actually running, this bed is not designed to run with a 4-stud setup. So this bed has been fully designed, and there's a lot of thought gone into this bed itself. This is designed to run with an e36 5-stud Evo M3 front suspension setup. So most people can do the research. You can fit a standard e30 M3 Evo front suspension setup onto an e30. What you actually do is you use the Evo wishbones, which have lesser of an angle. So the standard e30 wishbones are nearly 90 degrees. The Evo 3.2 have lesser of an angle, so they are a wider arm. That moves the ball joint further forward. You then put a offset bush in backwards. So you can imagine you've got this there. You put the offset bush in backwards, that moves the wishbone ball joint position further forward. And the main reason this is because the original e30 ball joint position, if you look at your standard 4-stud strut, so the suspension strut which sits here, the strut comes down, the lower ball joint which is connected to this wishbone, that lower ball joint is to the side of the strut. The shock tube itself is off to the side. The e36 setup is actually dead under the shock absorber. Now, because this position has changed between e36 and e30, what BMW did was the actual spindle that hold the bearing, they then offset on the side of the strut. So then we end up with a wheel which sits too far back into the e30 arch. The wheel sits near against the bulkhead, the wing, this side, if you don't fit an offset bush. So you can fit the Evo arm straight on, direct fit, the front strut straight on, direct fit, but the wheel's too far back. So then what you do is you fit the Evo wishbone, which then brings the wheel further forward. You also can then fit the offset bush, which brings the wheel further forward, and you can actually you end up with too much caster angle then, because you've moved the wheel and kept the strut top position the same. So you take off caster angle by using an offset top mount, but put it in the inwards forwards position. That's how you set the front suspension up. The reason you set the front suspension up like this is because the front suspension position on the e30 is further back than the e36 car itself. That's why all these things need to be moved forward. You end up with the correct caster angle when you fit the suspension setup how I've just explained. So then that offers a full 5-stud, larger choice of wheels. You can run the 3.2 Evo calipers and discs, which give you a larger braking power. Obviously, if you're fitting a larger engine, a larger braking power is perfect. But the main reason I want to just do this video is to just basically demonstrate the work that has to go involved into making this all work. So the engine bed itself is supplied exactly as you see. I also sell a full set of engine mounts, so a pair of engine mounts with rubber mounts supplied with them. I can supply at extra cost these anti-roll bar mounts, which are they're all custom made. So the original chassis comes up and curves under this, and then comes to the bottom of here. So this box here is completely custom made to fit over the chassis rails. It comes with the captive threads in as well. That basically goes over the chassis rail. I like to, instead of weld all the way around, I like to drill the holes, plug them with weld, and then grind them flush, and then it looks like a factory panel, so you wouldn't actually know that that panel's been fitted on there. The reason that you have to move the anti-roll bar is because the anti-roll bar actually originally ran backwards across the car and forwards again. Now obviously we can't do that because we're trying to achieve running a rear loading sump in the car. We want to keep the original M3 sump with the dual pickup and no oil starvation. So we want to fit that engine into the car so it's as reliable in an E30 as what it would be in an E46. So those engine beds are designed to run with the 5-stud e36 suspension, offering larger brakes. If you set it up how I've just explained, you end up with all the correct geometry, just as if it would be on an E36. You move your anti-roll bar to the forward position. Now, in regards to anti-roll bar, I will say that Island Engineering anti-roll bars are the only anti-roll bars, and I have nearly tried all of them. They are the only anti-roll bars that will fit onto the E30 in the forward position when you buy just the standard E30 M3 bar. No other bar can be turned this way around, clear the engine nicely, so it actually offers lovely clearance, curves down away from the engine. I will do a video of this all fitted onto the car once this car's gone off for primer, painting, under sealing. All this full suspension setup is everything has been powder coated. It will be fully documented on my Facebook channel and my YouTube channel, and you'll be able to see the build in progress on this car. But I just want to show the clearances, how everything clears, so I will show that in in-depth detail once the engine's fitted. It will be up on the ramp and you'll be able to see how well everything fits. Nothing clashes, everything has been seriously thought through. We've spent months and months and months of development making all this setup work so that it can be sold as a bolt-in kit. So the kit includes the engine bed. I can include the anti-roll bar mounts, but they are extra cost. It includes a Servo Relocation Kit. So if you're running an S50 or an S54, you actually can buy a plate off me, which you turn the hull around 90 degrees, basically at 180 degrees. That plate is moved the servo over by 45mm. It isn't just a plate, there is also an inner bar. The inner bar is left-handed, right-handed thread. So that inner bar there, that is actually a brand new bar, custom made with a left-hand, right-hand thread, and that is longer by 45mm, so that offers the correct amount of adjustment to be able to move your servo over. I also offer a splined bar, which is part of the steering. So as the steering rack has been moved forward by 50mm to equate for the correct steering angle, steering track rod angle to the hub, it then means that no spline bar supplied on the market will actually mate up from here to the steering column itself. So my spline bar has been made to a custom length so that everything will fit directly using an E34 or E32 5 series steering UJ. Use one at each end, one on the steering column, one on the steering rack. Use my custom length spline bar inside there. So yeah, the kit comes with engine mounts, engine bed, servo relocation kit, and a spline bar for the steering. I can also offer, and I have to do this in bulk orders, a set of heater matrix pipes. So as the plenum chamber sits in the car, you can imagine this curvature of the car. The actual plenum chamber follows this curvature of the car from the S50 and the S54, so you can imagine how much further over the inlet manifold is. Well, when the standard heater matrix pipes come out of the bulkhead here, the original pipes were dead straight out. One curved up and one was straight out, and they basically come in contact with the plenum chamber, with the setup that I'm supplying. There isn't anyone else, as far as I'm aware, that makes these. I have a full stainless steel set of heater matrix pipes, all custom made, fully custom made to order, but I have to do it in batches of 4 or 5. They come out of the bulkhead, you bolt your heater control valve to it, you can renew your seal. Now, the heater control valve itself is a common thing to fail. There's a little valve with 4 little, I would say, pinned over rivets in it. The rivets fail, the plastic gives, and the O-ring lets go, and the water in the passenger side ends up all in the footwell. Sometimes the car will just steam up and you'll wonder where it's all coming from. That's the heater control valve. So you can actually renew on, I send these out with a seal. You get a new seal, you get new bolts instead of rivets. You can bolt your heater control valve to the stainless steel pipework. The stainless steel pipes come up to the bulkhead and turn 90 degrees out of the bulkhead, and then your hoses can run parallel to the bulkhead and fit directly onto the heater matrix pipes, so that they do not come in contact with the plenum chamber whatsoever. So, like I said before, if you want to buy this kit, you will need to buy the Island Engineering anti-roll bars. I can supply the engine bed, the anti-roll bar mounts for the front, the steering spline shaft. I can supply the Servo Relocation Kit, and I can supply the heater matrix pipes. One other thing I will just say while I'm on the video, we've got the rear anti-roll bar on. This rear anti-roll bar is a lovely fit rear anti-roll bar. Just be aware that when you fit this, you need to bolt through the boot floor, okay? This isn't a direct bracket fit. You bolt it through the original anti-roll bar hole, and then you bolt through the boot floor. There's 2 bolts. You need to drill both those holes out to take this mount. Okay, so it's not a direct fit, but it's simple enough. It's not very hard at all. So yeah, that's basically the engine bed. It's a description of the engine bed. I hope you enjoyed it. For people who are mechanically minded, I hope you can understand the reason why I've made it. And you know, it's just a case of you know, trying to help people out. This is a direct bolting kit. You fit these parts, and your s54 or s50 will bolt straight in without any clearance issues. And you know, the next thing you have to worry about is your wiring and your exhaust. And you know, there's lots of other companies that supply wiring looms. There's lots of other companies that do exhaust systems. So the conversion becomes very easy and very reliable. It isn't going to blow up on you by the time you've finished building it. All right, so this has been, like I say, over-engineered. I fitted this now to